nice, very nice. And a good dinner too. See, Sybil, I told you it'd be far better off going out to a restaurant rather than having the trouble of doing a big dinner here.
Arthur, you shouldn't say such things. What do you think to Gerald?
Come on now. I'm treating Joe like one of the family. I'm sure he won't object.
Go on, Gerald. Just you object.
Wouldn't dream of it. In fact, I insist on being one of the family now. I've been trying long enough, haven't I?
Yes. Except for last summer. You hardly came in, and I wondered what had happened to you.
I've explained. I was awfully busy with work all the time.
Yes, that's what you say. Now, Sheila, don't tease him. When you're married, you will realise just how much time you have an important business to spend at their work. You'll have to get used to it, just like I did. What's the joke?
Don't know, honestly. I just suddenly felt I had to laugh.
You're drunk.
I am not.
Now stop it, you two. Arthur, how about a toast to a happy couple?
Of course. Well, Jules, I'm going to tell you frankly, your engagement to Sheila means a tremendous lot to me. You're just the kind of son-in-law I've always wanted. Your family and mine have been rivals in business for some time, but now your engagement has brought us together. We can look forward to a time when the Crofts and Burlings are no longer competing, but working together for low costs and higher prices.
I'm sure you're right.
Now, Arthur, I don't think you should be talking business on an occasion like this. And neither do I.
You're quite right. So, here's written the pair of you the very best that life can bring. Gerald and Sheila.
Gerald and Sheila.
Now, I suppose this would be the right moment. Sheila?
Oh, it's wonderful. Look at me. Isn't it a beauty? I'm really feeling it. So you should. It's a lovely ring. Be careful with it. Careful? I'll never let it out of my sight for an instant.
Very nice. Now, as I was saying, I'm delighted about this engagement, and I just want to say this. There's a lot of stupid nonsense being taught these days, but you can take it from me. A hard-headed man of business. You can ignore all this talk of doom and gloom. When you marry, you'll be marrying into a very good time. And soon, will be an even better time, with rising property values and soaring profits for lovely ones. A business like ours can't fail to go from strength to strength. You can take it from me. People like us are in for a time of steadily increasing prosperity.
Hey.
Now, Arthur, Sheila and I have a few things to talk about, don't we, dear? We shall leave you gentlemen to your conversation. Come along, Sheila. Walk along, Gerald.
Whiskey?
Thanks.
Help yourself.
I was just saying this then. I couldn't agree with you more.
I'm glad to hear it. And I mean what I say. What you young fellas don't seem to realise is, a man has to make his own way. He has to look after himself. And his family too, of course, when he has one. The way some of these cranks talk and write now, you think everybody thinks of everybody else. Like bees in a hive. Community and all that nonsense. Well, you can take it from me. There's no such thing as community. A man has to mind his own business and make his own way.
Somebody at the door?
You better get Harry. You can manage that, can't you?
Oh, go.
Well, Gerald, there's something I'd like to mention while Edward's out of the way. In strict confidence. Well, there's a chance that I might find my way to next honours list. A night or so I've been informed.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks. But it's a bit too soon for that, so don't say anything. I've had a hint or two, so, well, I might be getting a night. So, as long as we behave ourselves, don't get into the papers and start a scandal, eh?
You seem to be a well-behaved family.
We think we are.
An inspector's called.
An inspector? What sort of inspector?
A police inspector. She doesn't know she's very cool.
Oh, she, says they. And does she want to see me?
Yes, she does. She says it's important.
Oh, you better bring her in here then, man. Something about a warrant. I'm still a magistrate, you know.
Sure to be. Unless Eric's been up to something. That'll be a bit awkward, wouldn't it?
Very.
This is Inspector Gould.
Mr. Vernon,
Inspector Gould, you're new, aren't you?
recently transferred.
Thought you must be. I know the local police officers pretty well. I'm a magistrate, you know. About a warrant, Inspector.
No, Mr. Vernon.
Oh. Well, what is it then?
months ago, a young woman died in hospital. She had drunk some strong disinfectant. Burnt her inside out.
My God.
Yes, she was in great agony. They did all they could, but she died. Suicide, of course.
Horrid business. But I don't see why I've come here, Inspector.
I'd like some information from you, Mr. Burling. I've been round to the flat that she rented, and I found her diary. She seems to have used more than one name, but her real name was Eva Smith. Do you remember her, Mr. Burling? Eva Smith.
Eva Smith. Can't say I recognise her name.
She was employed in your factory at one time.
You see, Inspector, hundreds of girls work in my factory, and they keep changing, you know.
And this young woman, Eva Smith, was a bit out of the ordinary. There was a photograph of her in her flat. Perhaps you remember her from that. I think you remember Eva Smith now, don't you, Mr. Burling?
Yes, I do. She worked for me, and then I fired her.
Is that why she killed herself? When was this, Dad?
Keep quiet, Terry. The girl left us nearly 2 years ago, before you even come to work for the company.
Look, wouldn't it be better if I wasn't around for this?
I have no objection to being here, Gerald. You don't mind too, Inspector? It's Mr. Gerald Crofts and Mr. George Croft.
Mr. John Croft, eh?
That's correct. We've been celebrating his engagement to my daughter Sheila.
But I prefer you to stay, Mr. Croft.
Oh, well, all right.
Look, Inspector, there's nothing mysterious or scandalous about his business. The girl left us 2 years ago, so it has nothing to do with the stupid girl's suicide. I can't take any responsibility. If we were all responsible for everything that happened to everybody we'd had anything to do with, it would be very awkward, wouldn't it?
Very awkward.
Well, it's like you were saying, Dad. A man has to mind his own business and look out for himself, remember?
Now, this girl, Eva Smith, I remember quite well now, I think back. Lively looking girl. Country bred, I believe. She'd been working in one of my machine shops for over a year.
I was a good worker too. In fact, the foreman told me that they were ready to promote me up into what they call the leading operator. That meant that I was in charge of a small group of girls. But after we got back from our holidays at August, we knew we'd have to ask for more money. We were averaging more or less the going rate, but it just wasn't enough to live on. Burlings were doing well. They had a good profit, so we asked for some more raise. Mr. Burling refused.
I refuse, of course.
Why?
I don't see any concern of yours how to choose from my business, Inspector.
It's my duty to ask questions.
And it's my duty to keep labour costs down. If I'd agreed this demand, we'd have added about 12% to our labour costs. So I refuse. If they demand the rates we're paying, they could go elsewhere. It's a free country, I call it.
Well, it isn't if you can't find work anywhere else. So we went on strike. It didn't last long. It was just after the holidays. Most of the girls barely had 2 pennies to rub together. We gave up the strike after 2 weeks. Burlings took everyone back, with the overheads, of course, except those that they called the ringleaders. Mr. Burling himself came down and told us to clear out, me included. He said that I had far too much to stay, and I had to go.
Well, I think it's a damn shame. Why shouldn't they try at the higher wages? We try at the highest possible prices, don't we? And I don't see why she should have been sacked just because she'd had a bit more spirit than the others. I'd have let her stay.
Unless you write your ideas, you'll never be in a position to let anybody stay or tell anybody to go. I don't think we can tell the inspector anything more. I told the girl to clear out, and she went. That's the last I heard of her. I expect her from bad to worse after that. Girls like that normally too, don't they?
Mr. Burling, you mentioned your daughter a while ago. Miss Sheila Burling?
My fiancée. What about her?
Mr. Burling, I wonder if you'd mind asking her to step back in here for a few minutes.
Wait a minute, Inspector. What did you say your name was?
Goole. G-O-O-L-E.
Well, Inspector, Goole, there isn't the slightest reason why my girl should be dragged into this business.
Quite right. What possible good could come of exposing this girl to all of this nonsense?
That remains to be seen, Mr. Croft. Mr. Burling, if you wouldn't mind.
Now,
Oh,
wait a
thank you.
Thank you.
Inspector, I got some calls for and highly offensive.
I don't see it's getting you anywhere. It's what happened after she left Burling's factory that's important.
We can't help you there, because we don't know.
How can you be so sure that you don't know?
Are you suggesting that there's somebody else in this house who knows something about this girl?
What girl?
Good evening, Miss Burley. I'm a police inspector. I'm trying to find out some information about a young girl by the name of Eva Smith.
Eva Smith. Never heard of her.
This afternoon, Eva Smith drowned some disinfectant and died after several hours of agony tonight in the hospital.
That's horrible. Was it an accident?
No, she wanted to end her life. She felt she couldn't go on any longer.
Don't understand much because I fired her.
That might have started.
Did you, Dad? Why?
The girl's a troublemaker. It was completely justified.
Of course you were. We'd have done exactly the same thing. Oh, don't look like that, Sheila.
I'm sorry, but I think it was a mean thing to do. Whatever she was called. Perhaps getting by spoiled everything. What did you do next?
For the next 2 months, I couldn't find any work, though I did try. Both of my parents were dead, so I had no home to go back to, and I hadn't been able to save much out of what birds and paid me. There was no money coming in. I was living in cheap lodgings, with no relatives and not many friends to help. I was lonely, half-starved, desperate. Well, I wasn't the only one. There are plenty of people living in that sort of existence in every town in this country, and if there weren't, sweatshops and factories wouldn't know where to look for cheap labour. But knowing that wasn't taking of it. But then, I had a wonderful stroke of luck. I was taken on in the shop. A good shop too. Millward's.
Millward. We go there. In fact, I was there this afternoon. She was lucky to be taken at Millward's.
Yes, that's what she thought. It was the beginning of December, and there was a good deal of flu going about, and they found themselves short-handed. So that gave her a chance. She liked working there. She felt she was making a fresh start.
And then she got herself into trouble, I suppose.
After a couple of months, they told her she'd have to go.
Not doing her work properly.
There was nothing wrong with the way she was doing her work. They were quite clear about that. No. All it came down to was a simple complaint from a customer. So she had to go.
When was this?
At the end of January last year.
What did this girl look like?
If you come over here, I'll show you.
Oh!
What's the matter with her?
Recognise the girl in the photograph, obviously.
Now look what you've done. Upsetting a child like that. A nice family celebration we were having, and a nasty mess you've made of it now, haven't you, Inspector?
That's more or less exactly what I was thinking earlier tonight, when I was looking at what was left of Eva Smith. A nice little promising life there, I thought. And a nasty mess someone's made of it.
Yes. Well, if it's all the same to you, Inspector, I'm going to have a word with my girl.
I'd like to have a look at that photograph now, Inspector.
All in good time.
Look here, I've had enough of this.
Have you now?
Well, I'm sorry, but you see, we're having a bit of a party, and I've had a few drinks. And I've got a headache, and I'm only in the way here. So I think I might as well just turn in.
And you'd better stay here.
Why should I?
It might be less trouble. I might need to ask you a few questions later.
Getting a bit heavy-handed, aren't you, Inspector? After all, we're all respectable citizens here, you know, not criminals.
Sometimes there isn't as much difference as you might think. Well, Miss Burley, you knew it was me all along, didn't you? I had an idea. From something in the girl's diary.
What did Sheila do?
I went to the manager of Millward's, and I told them that if they didn't get rid of that girl, I'd never be able to keep it again, and Mother would close our account with them.
And why did you do that?
Because I was in a furious temper.
What happened, Sheila?
I decided to try something up. It was an idea of my own. Mother was against it, and so was the assistant, but I insisted. As soon as I tried it on, I knew they'd been right. It just didn't suit me at all. I looked stupid with it. Well, this girl,
Eva Smith.
yes, Eva Smith, who bought the dress up from the strawberry. Miss Francis, the assistant, had asked me something about them, and I just picked it up for a moment to show what she meant. I suppose it did suit me, but then Miss Burley tried it on, and you see, it didn't suit her at all. She wasn't the right type for it, that's all. I'm sure she thought I was being rude, but really I wasn't. I thought she was very pretty, but a different style of dress would have suited her far better. The next thing, Miss Burley had gone in to see the manager. She was furious, and the next thing I found out,
told to leave. There was no longer a place for anyone else.
How was I to be told what happened to her? If she was as miserable as the playmate, I don't suppose I'm dead. But she was very pretty, and looked as if she took care of herself.
In fact, you might say you were jealous of her.
Yes, I suppose so.
And you used the power that you had as the daughter of a good customer, and also a man well known in the town, to punish this girl just because she made you feel like that.
Yes, but it did not seem so terrible at the time. If I could help her now, I would.
Yes, well you can't. It's too late. She's dead.
Why did this happen?
That's what I asked myself tonight when I was looking at that dead girl. And then I said to myself, well, we'll try to understand why it happened. And that's why I'm here. Why I'm not leaving until I know all that happened. Eva Smith lost her job with Birmingham because the strike failed. At last, she found another job, but had to leave there because you, Miss Birmingham, were annoyed with yourself and passed your annoyance on to her. Next, she had to try something else. So first, she changed her name to Daisy Renton.
What did you say?
I said, she changed her name to Daisy Renton.
Look, might have helped myself to a drink.
Where's your father, Miss Birmingham?
I expected to explain to my mother what was happening here.
Miss Birmingham, I wonder if you would mind asking your father to step up in here in a few minutes?
Of course.
On second thoughts, I'd better go and speak to your father myself. Mr. Croft, Miss Birmingham, we shan't be more than a few minutes.
Well, Gerald,
Well, what, Sheila?
how did you come to know this girl?
What makes you think that I did?
Oh, don't be stupid. You haven't much time. You gave yourself away as soon as you mentioned the girl's other name, Daisy Renton.
All right. I knew it. Let's leave it at that.
No, that's no news. You obviously know her well, or you wouldn't have so difficult about it. When did you know her? When you seen her last summer, when you hardly came in and said you were too busy with your work. Were you? Yeah.
I'm sorry, Sheila. It was all over and done with last summer. I haven't set eyes on this girl for at least 6 months. I don't come into this suicide business.
I thought I did half an hour ago.
And you don't. Neither of us does. For God's sake, don't say anything to the inspector.
Oh, you fool. She already knows. Of course she already knows. I hate when how much more she knows than you don't know. You'll see.
Well,
Inspector, I think Miss Burley ought to be excused anymore of this questioning. She's obviously had as much as she can stand.
It means like she's hysterical now.
are you?
Probably.
Well, I don't need to keep you here. I have no more questions for you.
No. But you haven't finished asking questions, have you?
No.
Then I'm staying.
Why should you? It's bound to be unpleasant and disturbing.
And you think young women should be protected from unpleasant and disturbing things?
Yes, of course.
Well, we know one young woman who wasn't, don't we, Mr. Croft?
I suppose I asked for that. Look, Sheila, why stay when you'll hate it?
The worst part is over with me. It can't be worse for me than it already has been. And it might be better.
I see. You've been through it. And you want to see somebody else go through it.
Is that really what you think I'm like? You listened to that story about me getting the girl sacked from Millward, and you made up your mind I'm a selfish, vindictive creature.
I neither said that nor suggested it.
And why say that I wanted somebody else to put through it? That's not what I meant at all.
I can tell you why Miss Bird wants to stay, and why it would be better for her if she did. A girl died tonight. Miss Burling has just been made to understand what she did to this girl. She feels responsible. If she leaves now and doesn't hear any more, she will feel she's entirely responsible.
Yes, that's it. I know I'm to blame, and I'm desperately sorry. But I can't believe it. That is entirely my fault that in the end this girl committed suicide. Girls.
You see, we have to share something. If we've nothing else, we have to share our guilt.
Good evening, Inspector.
Good evening, Mrs. Burling.
That's correct. My husband has explained why you're here, and I really don't see how we can help you any further. No, Mother, please. Whatever is the matter, Sheila? You're beginning all wrong. I'm afraid you'll say something you'll be sorry for afterwards. I don't know what you're talking about, Sheila. We all started like you did, until she began asking us questions. You seem to have made a great impression on my daughter, Inspector.
We often do on the young ones.
Sheila dear, you're tired. Go to bed and forget all about this absurd business. You'll feel better in the morning.
No. I'm staying here until we find out why that girl killed herself.
Well, really, I don't suppose for a moment any of us here can understand why the girl committed suicide. Girls of that sort.
Stop it, Mother. You mustn't.
Mustn't what? Really, Sheila?
You must not try to build up a wall between us and that girl. If you do, then the inspector will just break it down.
I don't understand a word you're saying.
But I do. And she's right.
I beg your pardon.
I said, I do understand her. And she's right.
That I consider is a trifle impertinent. I realise you may have to conduct some sort of inquiry, but I must say you're going about it in a rather peculiar and offensive manner. You do realise my husband is a magistrate and a friend of the chief constable?
Your husband? Yes. And where is your husband at present, Mrs. Burling?
He's coming back in a moment. He's just talking to my son, Eric, who seems to be in a somewhat excitable mood.
What's the matter with him?
Eric? Oh, I'm afraid he may have had rather too much to drink. We're having a little celebration here, you see, and he's not used to drinking. He's just a boy.
No, he's a young man. And some young men have far too much to drink.
And Eric, one of them.
Sheila!
I don't want to get Eric into trouble, but this is not the time to pretend that Eric isn't used to drink. He's been studying drinking far too much for the last 2 years.
It isn't true. Gerald, you know him, you must know it isn't true.
I'm afraid it is, actually. I gather he does drink pretty hard.
And this is the time you choose to tell me?
Of course it is. It's not a man about building up a wall that's sure to be rectified.
But it's you, not the inspector here, who's doing it.
Yes, but do you see, she hasn't started you yet.
If necessary, I shall be glad to answer any questions the inspector wishes to ask me, though naturally I don't know anything about this girl.
We'll see, Mrs. Burling. We'll see.
Persuade her to go to bed. You insist on taking a walk outside? You seem very determined.
Has your son left the house, Mrs. Burling?
He has. I couldn't stop him. He'll be back soon enough when he's cooled off.
I hope so. Because if he isn't, I shall have to go and find him.
Why is that?
All in good time, Mr. Burling. One line of inquiry at a time.
Inspector, I told you before, I don't like your tone nor the way you're handling this inquiry.
Nevertheless, it's my inquiry to handle as I choose.
Well, let's get it over with then, shall we? What exactly is it you wish to know?
At the end of January last year, Eva Smith lost her job at Norwood because Miss Burling here compelled him to discharge her. She stopped being Eva Smith and became Daisy Renton. Mr. Croft, when did you first get to know her?
And what makes you think that I did?
It's no use, Gerald. You're wasting time.
As soon as I mentioned the name Daisy Renton, you gave yourself away at once. And anyway, I already knew, when the girl's diary. But I'd like to hear it in your words, if you don't mind. When did you first get to know her?
Alright then, if you must have it. I met this girl, Daisy Renton. I never knew her as Eva Smith. In the bar of the Imperial Hotel, sometime in March last year. I'd been in there to meet a business contact, and we were looking over some papers until quite late in the evening. And afterwards, I felt like a quick drink before going home. Normally, it's not the sort of place I'd go for a drink. The bar that I'm in, well, it's a favourite haunt of, you know, the professional type of woman.
What on earth do you mean, Gerald?
Oh, Mother, you know perfectly well. He means prostitutes.
Well, really, I would never have believed it.
Come along, Mr. Croft.
I didn't intend to stay long in there. I hate those hard-faced, dolled-up women. But then I noticed this girl. She was rather pretty, very frail looking. My God!
What's the matter, Mr. Croft?
Sorry, I suddenly realised, taken in properly, that she's dead.
Yes, she's dead.
Go on, Gerald.
Well, this girl looked altogether out of place in there. She'd got herself wedged into a corner by that fat carcass of Joe Megarty.
Alderman McGarty?
Mother, he's a notorious criminal. Everybody knows that. I know her. I've seen her at the town hall one day, and she was lucky to escape with only a torn down.
Sheila!
Go on, please, Mr. Croft. so I gave him a glance, a cry for help really. He came across to the table and told that horrible man that was a telephone call for him. Just a story really, but it got him out of the way. And he told me that if I didn't want any more of that sort of thing, I should let him take me out of there. I agreed at once.
We went along to the county hotel, because I knew it would be quiet at that time of night. I had a drink or two, and talked.
Oh, no, really, nothing for me. Well, perhaps just a part of memory. Sorry, I'm rather shaken. That man.
No, everything's all right. He can't touch you now. Tell me about yourself. How on earth did you get into this mess in the first place? You don't look like a type to me. What's your name?
Renton. Daisy Renton. I'm from outside this town originally. I grew up in the country. Both my parents are dead now, and I had to come here to find work. I did have a job in the factory, but there was a strike at me and somehow, well, doesn't matter now. I don't have that job anymore.
There are plenty of other places you could work. Have you tried out that big shop, for example? I bet that'll suit you perfectly.
A shop? Well, yes it would. I actually have worked in a shop before. A good one. I enjoyed it too. I enjoyed being surrounded by nice clothes.
But?
Well, I didn't work out.
Now look here, Daisy. You look half starved. Have you eaten today? Have you?
A little. Not very much. No. Not really hardly at all.
Then we'll have to do something about that. I'll get the kitchens to find some food for you. And then we'll start to talk about your future.
From what I can gather from the girl's diary, Mr. Croft, you met Daisy Renton again 2 nights later, by arrangement this time. And that's when she told you that she hadn't a penny, and she was about to be turned out of the miserable little flat she was renting. And then, she became your lover.
What?
Of course not. It was obvious from the start.
You can't let you go homeless, Daisy. Now look, a friend of mine, Charlie Brunswick, he's gone off to Canada for 6 months, and he's let me have the key to his apartment in town here. He asked me to keep an eye on it from time to time, and make use of it if I want to. What do you say? A place for you to settle down, for a while at least?
I couldn't really, yeah, it's very kind of you, but I couldn't pay anything, and it wouldn't be fair.
I'm not having that, Daisy. That flat's yours as long as you want it. And here. Just some money once it's settled in there.
Oh, you're very kind, Gerald, but what does this mean about you and me?
Don't worry, Daisy. All I want is to see you comfortable and happy.
And was that you, Joe? Was that really all you wanted?
At that time, yes it was. I didn't store her in the flat to have sex with her. I felt sorry for her, and I thought it was wrong of her to go back to the Imperial Bar.
But she became your lover.
Yes, I'm sorry, Sheila. She was young and pretty and intensely grateful. I suppose it was inevitable.
Yes, she was a young woman. She was lonely. You gave her help, and so at once became the most important person in her life. Were you in love with her?
It's hard to say. I didn't feel about her as she felt for me.
Of course not. You were the wonderful fairy prince. You must have adored it.
All right, I did for a time. I didn't see her every night, but I did see a good deal of her, it's true, and I really was busy with business for some of that time. That's all I can tell you. Is there anything else you need to know, Inspector?
Yes. When did this affair end?
It was the first week of September, and I had to go away for business, and by that time she knew it was coming to an end. So I broke it off definitely before I went.
I've been expecting it, of course. I tried to be, I suppose you might say, gallant about it, to make it easy for Gerald. I told him that I'd been happier in no agreement than I'd ever been before, but I always knew it couldn't last. And I didn't blame him at all. Of course, I had to move out the flat, and I saved a little money during the summer by living very economically on what Gerald allowed me. And I didn't want to take any more from him, but he insisted on parting it. It seemed a lot, but I suppose it wasn't so very much to Gerald, and it was seeing me through to the end of the year. And then I moved away for a couple of months or so to a little seaside town.
I wanted to be alone, to be quiet, to remember all the good things that happened between us, just to make it last longer. I knew then that nothing could ever be as good again for me, so I had to make it last longer. I had to make it last longer.
I never saw her again. That's all I can tell you.
That's all I want to know from you.
In that case, if you don't mind, Inspector, I'd like to be alone for a while, if you'd let me. Go now?
Go where? Home?
No, I'll just take a walk outside. Perhaps I can find Eric and bring him back. He won't walk far.
All right, Mr. Croft.
But just in case you forget, Joe, I decided to come back.
I suppose I was expecting this.
And you were lying back to those last year and hardly hearing me and said you're too busy with your work. But at least now you've been honest. In a way I respect you now more than I ever have done before. But there's a big difference. You and I are excited when we sat down for dinner tonight.
Oh, Sheila, I'm not defending you, but you
Don't
must listen to...
interrupt. Wow. Joe knows him, and apparently you don't.
Yes, I understand, but I'm coming back, if I may.
All right.
Well, really, I hope we've come to the end of this wretched business.
I don't think so. Excuse me.
You know she retained that photograph of her.
No, it wasn't necessary.
You have a photograph of this girl?
Yes, but have you been to have a look at it?
I don't see any particular reason why I should.
Nevertheless.
Oh, very well.
You recognize this girl?
No, why should I?
Of course, she might have changed since the photograph was taken, but surely not all that much.
I don't know what you could possibly mean, Inspector.
Mother, please, just think. It's obvious from reading that you recognise the girl in the photograph. Can't you see? By denying it, you're just making it worse.
Oh, very well. Yes, I do know that girl, but I can't see how it makes any difference. What exactly do you wish to know, Inspector?
Mrs. Burling, you're a member of the local women's charity organisation, aren't you?
I dare say you know very well that I am. As a matter of fact, I'm currently chairwoman.
Can you explain the purpose of your organisation, Mrs. Burling?
Well, we are a charity to which women in distress can appeal for help in various forms. We've done a great deal of useful work in helping deserving cases. We interview young women who come to us for support. We examine their situations and decide which of them to assist.
And there was a meeting of the interviewing committee 2 weeks ago.
And if there was, what business is it of yours?
Do you want me to tell you in plain words?
Is there any good reason why my wife should answer these questions, Inspector?
A very good reason. Mr. Croft has just told us he hasn't seen or spoken to this girl since last September. But Mrs. Burling here saw and spoke to her only 2 weeks ago.
Mother!
This is true, Sybil.
Yes, it's quite true.
This girl came to your organisation for help.
Yes.
Not as Eva Smith.
No, nor as Daisy Renton. She had the gross impertinence to call herself Mrs. Burling. Damned impudence. Naturally, that prejudiced me against her case straight away.
And it was owing to your influence as the chairwoman of the committee that this girl was refused any help.
Yes, it was. I didn't like her manner, and her whole story is obviously a pack of lies.
Why did she want to help?
Oh, I'm sure you know very well already, Inspector.
No, I don't. I know why she needed help, but I don't know what she asked for from your committee.
So, Mrs. Burling, if you think you can bring some sort of pressure to bear upon me, you are quite mistaken. Unlike the other three, I have done nothing I'm ashamed of. Now, I prefer not to discuss this any further, and you, Inspector, have no power to make me change my mind.
But I do have that power, Mrs. Burling.
I really...
Mrs. Burling!
Very well. I can tell you exactly what happened, if you must know.
It's true. I had not been completely honest about my situation when I first approached the committee. I lied, but it was for a good reason.
Your name isn't Burling at all, is it?
No, it isn't. I only said that because, well, it was the first name I thought of when you asked me.
And you're not.
Burnham's what you see.
And you're not really understand your claim. You seem to me to be not a good case. As chairwoman of the Women's Charity Organisation, I'm advising the committee to reject your application for assistance. Are you going to leave, young woman, or must we have you removed? Well?
I'm going to have a child.
I see. Well, I must say I suspected as much. I hope you don't think this is going to change anything.
I need help.
Then let me tell you what to do, young woman. Go and look for the father of the child. It's his responsibility. I take it you know who the father is. Then it's your duty to make him responsible. In my opinion, you should be compelled to marry him. If he refuses, you must at least support you.
But he can't marry me. He can't support me. He's only a youngster. He's silly and rather wild and he drinks too much. There can't be any question of him marrying me. It would be wrong for both of us. He's given me some money, it's true, but I can't take any more from him. It would be wrong.
Now I'm losing all patience with you, giving yourself ridiculous airs, claiming elaborate fine feelings and scruples simply absurd your position, as if a girl of your sort would ever refuse money.
But he can't support me. I can't take any more money from him. It would be wrong. He said something one night when he was drunk. That made me realise it wasn't his money in the first place. I think he's stolen it. I can't take stolen money. And besides, I don't want him to get into any trouble.
And why should we believe this story any more than the first one? It all sounds quite ridiculous to me. I'm advising the committee to reject your claim for assistance. And perhaps now, young woman, you'll be finally gone.
Mother, aren't you sorry now when you know what happened to the girl afterwards?
I'm sorry she should have come to such a horrible end, but I accept no blame for it at all.
Who is to blame?
First, the girl herself. Secondly, I blame the young man who's the father of the child she was going to have. If indeed that part of the story had any truth.
Yes, Mrs. Burley, that was quite true. The girl I saw tonight in the hospital with the burnt out insides, yes, she was going to have a child.
All the more reason to blame the young man responsible. And if, as she claimed, he wasn't of her class, was some drunken young idler, then all the more reason that he shouldn't escape. He should be made an example of. If the girl's death is due to anybody, then it's due to him.
So he's the chief culprit.
Certainly, and he should be dealt with very severely.
Mother, stop! Stop!
Be quiet, Sheila.
But you don't see!
Sheila, you behave like an hysterical child.
And now, Inspector, if you would take some steps to find this young man and make him compelled to confess in public his responsibility, perhaps you'll be truly doing your duty.
Don't worry, Mrs. Burley. I shall do my duty.
I'm glad to hear it. And now, no doubt, you'd like to say good night.
Not yet. I'm waiting.
Waiting? For what?
To do my duty.
Now, Mother, don't you see?
But surely, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Wait a minute, Inspector. Are you trying to suggest my boy's mixed into this?
If he is, we know what to do with him, don't we? Mrs. Burley here has just told us.
I don't believe it. I won't believe it.
Mother, I begged and begged you to stop.
You know, don't you?
Yes, we know.
Eric, I can't believe it. There must be some mistake. You don't know what we've been saying.
Mother's been busy blaming everything on the young man who got this girl in trouble, saying you shouldn't escape and you shouldn't make an example.
That's enough, Sheila.
You haven't made this any easier for me, have you, Mother?
But I didn't know it was you. You're not like that. You're not the type. You don't get drunk.
Of course it does. I told you you did.
You little snake.
That's not fair, Eric. Ellie said so tonight because, well, everything's coming out anyway.
Sheila, I simply don't understand your attitude. If you have any sense of loyalty.
Just a minute, please. There'll be plenty of time when I'm gone to sort out your family relationships. But first, I'd like to hear what your son has to tell me. Now then.
Can I have a drink, first.
No!
Yes. I know, but look at him. He needs a drink just to see him through.
Alright. I must say, you seem very at home with that whiskey bottle. Must have been blind enough to see it before, you little drunk.
Don't start on that. I want to get on. When and where did you first meet this girl?
One night last November, in the bar of the Imperial Hotel. I'd been in for about an hour or so with some of the lads, and I was a bit far gone. She was standing at the bar. You know the way those women are. But she didn't look the type. Nervous. I don't think she really knew what to do.
I was a little bit drunk too, to tell the truth. I didn't want to go there in the first place, but a woman I'd met had persuaded me to go. I hadn't eaten all day, and I felt I had to have a little drink just to get me through. You didn't even realise I'd had one, not until I told you afterwards. You came back with me to the flat I had then, and you insisted on coming in. I didn't want you to come in, but you were in that state, well, where a man can easily turn nasty. You insisted, so I let you in.
That's when it happened. I didn't even remember. That's the hellish part. Oh my god, how stupid this all is.
Eric, how could you?
When did you meet her again?
About a fortnight afterwards. It was pure chance, nothing was planned. I didn't even remember where she lived or what her name was. But I happened to see her again in the bar of the Imperial Hotel.
More drinks. Though this time you weren't as bad. You took me home again. And we talked a bit. I told you about myself, and you talked too. You told me your name, and what you did. And then we made love again.
You just had to go to bed with her, didn't you?
I'm old enough to be married, aren't I? I'm not married. And hate some of these fat old tarts I see some of your respectable friends within the Imperial.
I want none of that talk from you.
And I don't want it from either of you. Sort it out after. What happened after that?
You arranged to see me again. Then the next time, or the time after that, I told you I thought I was going to have your baby. I wasn't sure, but then I was sure. I was worried, and so were you. I didn't want you to offer to marry me. You didn't love me, and after all, you were only a youngster. I didn't have a job, but I couldn't face trying for another one. You and I was desperate. I didn't have any money. You insisted on giving me some money just to get me through. A few £100.
A few £100? On top of all that drinking? Where did you get a few £100?
I got it from the office. Your office.
What?
I didn't steal it. Not exactly. I was going to pay it back. But there were a few small accounts owed to the company. So I asked for cash and gave the firm's receipt. And I kept the money. Well, I can hardly turn to you, could I? Not the type of father to turn to when you're in trouble.
Then one night, when you were drunk and trying to force more money onto me, I realised it wasn't yours. I couldn't take any more. It was wrong. I had to go elsewhere for help.
But where did she go? What happened to her then? Do you know?
Yes, I do know, and I'll tell you. She went to your mother's committee for help. Your mother refused that help.
Then you killed her. She came to you to protect me, and you turned her away. You killed her and the child she was carrying, my child, your own grandchild. You killed them both, damn you!
Eric, I didn't know! I didn't understand!
Now listen, all of you. I don't need to know any more. Neither do you. This girl killed herself and died a horrible death. But each of you helped to kill her. Remember that. Never forget it. But then, I don't suppose you ever will.
Inspector, I'd give thousands, yes, thousands.
You're offering your money at the wrong time, Mr. Burley. Elizabeth's gone. You can't do her any more harm. And you can't do her any good now either. You can't even say, I'm sorry. But remember this. One Elizabeth is gone. But there are millions and millions of Eva Smiths and John Smiths still with us, all intertwined with our lives and what we think, say and do. We don't live alone. We are members of one body, and the time will come where if men and women will not learn that lesson, they will be taught it in fire, blood and anguish. Good night.
Not bad, I am.
It'll be a scandal. I was almost certain for a knighthood. When I look back on tonight, when I think of how I was feeling when the five of us sat down at the table.
Yes, and do you remember what you told Gerald and me after dinner when you were feeling so pleased with yourself? About how a man has to look after himself and his family and make his own way, and that there's no such thing as community. I didn't notice you telling any of that to the inspector.
Is that what the inspector came? Just after Barley brother?
Yes, why?
It's just not a feeling I've had all along.
I know exactly what you mean, because I've been wondering myself. Was she really a police inspector?
She certainly never acted like one. Look at the way she talked to me, telling me to shut up and so on. They just don't talk like that, do they?
Her manner was quite extraordinary. So rude and assertive. Not like a police inspector at all.
Well, she inspected us all right, real or not.
If she wasn't a real inspector, it makes all the difference.
Not to me, it doesn't. It doesn't matter who it was that made us all come back. You turned the girl out of one job, I turned her out of another. Gerald kept her as a secret lover. And Eric, well, we all know Eric. And then we gave her the file and pushed that finished her. That's what's important. Not whether she was a police inspector or not.
Well, we never really told her anything she didn't already know, did we?
She had a bit of information left over by the girl. Made a few smart guesses. Probably some sort of a crank with a grudge against us. There's people in this town just like me enough to do that. She tricked us into confessing all manner of things. And now, she can bring it out at the inquest, whoever she is. We have to do something about this. We're fast, too.
Gerald?
Did Dorothy come back in?
Yes, of course, Gerald.
I had to come back. Has the inspector gone?
Yes, a few minutes ago.
How did she
What was after you left?
How did she behave?
In a very peculiar and suspicious manner.
The rude way she spoke to Arthur and me was quite extraordinary.
You know something. What is it?
That woman wasn't a police inspector.
Are you certain?
Absolutely positive. I called a police sergeant and over down at headquarters, and I described this Inspector Gould carefully to him. He swore there was nobody like, by the name of Inspector Gould, or anyone like one before him.
There we are. I think. I knew it.
Didn't I tell you? Didn't I say I couldn't imagine a real police inspector talking to us like that?
I'm going to make certain of this. I'm calling Tom Roberts, the Chief Constable.
Careful what you tell him, Arthur.
Of course. I was going to this anyway. I've had my suspicions all along. Ah, is that you, Tom? Johnny Good, Arthur Burning here. Sorry to be calling you so late. We've got a little mystery here that you might be able to settle for us. Have you taken a woman inspector lady by the name of Gould? Well-dressed type, hair pulled back, something of a severe manner, I'd say. A bit too sure of herself? Oh, is that right? Well, that settles it. No, that's all right, Tom. Many thanks. Good night. They've got no female inspector on the local force at present named Gould or anything else. That woman wasn't the police inspector. It was being had.
I felt it all the time. She never talked like one. She never even looked like one.
Wow, this makes all the difference then, doesn't it?
Why does it? The girl's still dead, isn't she? We still all did what we did to her. We still all helped to kill her. Still the same rotten story, whether it's told to a police inspector or to somebody else.
That's just how I feel like it. They don't seem to understand. But between us, we drove that girl to understand.
Did we? Who says so? There's no more evidence we did than there's any evidence of that woman being a police inspector. For all we know, she could have made... Alright.
All she did was bluff us.
All she did was bluff us into confessing that we were all mixed up in a certain girl's life. But how do you know it's the same girl?
Of course it was the same girl. We all recognised from the photograph that woman had.
How do you know it's the same photograph? Did you see the one she showed your father? Did your father see the one she showed you?
No, he didn't. I see what you mean.
She showed me a photograph, but none of the others saw it.
There you are then. There's no proof that it's the same photograph, and therefore no proof it's the same girl. There's not even any proof that a girl killed herself today. For all we know, she could have made the whole story up just to shock us into making our confessions. Do you see now?
I'm convinced Gerald's right. No police inquiry. No scandal.
I'm no suicide.
We can settle that one straight away. I'm calling the hospital. Either there's a dead girl there, or there isn't. Hospital, this is Mr. Gerald Croft. I represent the company, Crofts Limited. I'm very concerned about one of my employees. Have you admitted a girl who has died after drinking disinfectant, or any other similar suicide? Yes, I'll hold. Hello? Yes? Are you certain? Oh, thank you very much. Good night. No girl has died today. No girl has died after drinking disinfectant. They haven't had a suicide for weeks.
Hell yeah. Proof positive. The whole story was nothing more than an elaborate hoax.
I must say, Gerald, you worked it all out very cleverly, and I'm most grateful. Come now, Sheila, don't look like that. All over now.
The worst part of it, but I can't forget that everything we said happened, really had happened. If it didn't end tragically, that's when it's correct. But it might have done.
Come on now. You have a good laugh over it in the morning.
I won't. And it frightens me the way you talk.
Frightens me too.
You're pretending.
You're pretending everything's just as it was before, but it isn't. Whoever that inspector was, it was anything but a joke. You knew it then, you began to learn something, and now you've stopped. But I haven't. I remember what you said to us and how it made me feel. Fire and blood and anguish.
The famous younger generation today. And they can't even take a joke.
Everything's all right now. Sheila, how about this ring?
No, not yet. It's too soon.
You're overtired. In the morning, you'll be as amused as we are.
Hello? Yes, this is Mr. Burnett. What? What? Now wait. That was the police. A young girl just died on her way to hospital after swallowing some disinfectant. The police inspectors on her way here to ask some questions.